Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast at RE Las Vegas.
We are recording live from the Power Up Live Pro Studio presented by Terra Hive. Thanks to RE Plus and Suncast Media for hosting us. And we are here talking to Gil Hough from TenneSEIA.
Sean, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate being here today and excited to talk to you a little bit about TenneSEIA and the TVA solar market.
All right. And, you know, I kind of remember about TVA. I think I had to study it in my history class, and I kind of forgot. I guess my teacher wasn't good enough because I don't remember things that I had to learn in sixth grade or whenever it was. So what is it, like Pete Seger? Does he have something to do with it?
I don't know about that. It was part of the New Deal. We know what was happening during the Great Depression times, actually, was electrification was only happening in the cities and not the rural areas. And they were suffering because of that to a large extent, not being modernized. So the government stepped in and created a federal utility. It does broader than just a utility to look out for economic development, electrification, river control. So it's a very unique entity and very unique solar and storage market. And so it's the 7-state region. It's all of Tennessee but one county, then a good slice of North Georgia, northern Alabama, about a third of Mississippi, 25% of Kentucky, and a few counties of Virginia and North Carolina.
So you're kind of moving in on those other states, taking them over? Is that
no,
kind of what it is?
Just like
Should we
where
start
TVA exists.
moving some borders?
The rules are
I'm all
different.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the Georgia IRP doesn't cover the TVA area. The TVA IRP will cover that. So just planning it and utilities is just unique. So it's a long history of public power. And there's actually a TVA fence, so where TVA exists and private utilities exist has been set in law. So there's no expansion, but it is a larger territory. People come and talk to me to want to learn about the Tennessee market. And I always say, well, there is no Tennessee market, there's a Tennessee Valley market. So it's, you know, if you're talking northern Alabama or a good chunk of Mississippi, Kentucky, it is TVA that sets the rule.
So does Tennessee have this really big valley that encompasses different states then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's roughly the river valley except by the Tennessee River.
Okay, good. Does that make you a valley guy?
I guess it does, yeah.
Oh my God. No. And so it's all kind of interesting. So you said it goes back to the New Deal. And so that was, I guess, FDR.
Correct.
And that was at the end or during the Great Depression back in the 30s, I guess, something like that. And I think that's when my grandfather was building the Golden Gate Bridge with some of that probably New Deal money that was going into like building all this infrastructure.
It was a unique time of federal investment into communities, direct federal investment. And I think both of those cases are great example of that.
So I guess the New Deal worked then?
I do think it worked very well.
Because we're not in the Great Depression anymore?
Exactly. Although we're sliding in, I think, stagflation and some dangerous times at the moment, but we're definitely much better off today because I think a lot of those investments that did happen back then and do play a role.
Yeah, I remember my grandparents who survived the Great Depression were penny pinchers. You know, they have a lot of money, and then they would be like, you better not order this at Denny's. May they all rest in peace. All four of my grandparents. And so, Gil, you are the executive director of TenneSEIA, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with TenneSEIA doing some NEC code classes at your conferences. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what's going on with TenneSEIA and what's going on with the TenneSEIA conference. I know that's coming up.
It is indeed, and I'm excited to talk about it. And Sean, really appreciate you've been a great partner for a number of years, our featured trainer. On day 2 of the conference, we do have our training track where you run the ship, and I've always got great positive feedback for that. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
You know, installers not having to travel to get their CEUs and get updated on what the latest and newest is always one of the benefits of the conference. So yeah, I mean, the Tennessee Valley is growing really rapidly. Like a number of regions right now. We're having a lot of manufacturing that's come in. You know, Nashville and Middle Tennessee in particular has been a huge growth area. Frankly, TVA is a little desperate for generation right now, you know, after decades of flat growth. You know, they're looking now to add as much generation as they can, and it's challenging today to build anything. But, you know, I'm on the TVA IRP working group, the Integrated Resource Plan working group. that looks at the needs of future generation for, up to 2035 and 2050. The draft IRP is out. I'm bound by plenty of non-disclosure agreements, but now that the draft is out, I can talk about it a little bit. And, it calls for, up to 20 gigawatts of solar, up to 6 gigawatts of storage. It calls for a lot of natural gas and a little bit of, modular nuclear and some other things too. But, Tennessee and the Tennessee Valley has been a traditional slow market for solar and storage. We had a little bit always going on for a long time. TVA did make a number of investments and have a history of doing some good things over the years, but very small market in comparison to some of our neighbors. But that's been changing the last few years. Solar is the low-cost generation source, and TVA recognizes that. They've been a bit of a challenge because they were new. They've transitioned to a lot of their processes. I'm really excited by some of their newest. They've moved to an annual RFP going out in the spring, invitation to a resource solicitation cluster process in the summer that's like invitation only. We had a really clogged up interconnection queue like a lot of places did. But if you look at it today, it's much more streamlined and has a lot of the projects that, TVA was never going to contract with are gone now. And so I'm excited to see interconnection happening a lot faster. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. Turbulent times, a lot of uncertainty. TVA has not been away from that. We, as the federal utility, the board is appointed by the President of the United States. Over nothing power related, he fired a couple of TVA board members, but there's some new nominations we're waiting on. They actually don't have quorum to make any decisions right now. But most of the new board members got good resumes, and I'm excited to have them join the TVA board as we continue to work very closely with TVA. You mentioned the conference, Tennessee Valley Solar Plus Storage Conference. We kick it off.
Which is always a lot of fun. You guys do bowling and all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, this year, we always try to add some fun stuff to it. This year, we want to start with the fun, right? We actually have one of the winners of The Voice giving us a private performance.
Oh, great.
Country music star Jack Hoot is going to come in.
All right.
Because we're right downtown Nashville, right over the honky tonks. So I figure we got to break out our cowboy boots and hats.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
I do have some horses, but I don't think they're going to make it from California.
Yeah, well, we're right on Broadway. So, it's a great place to listen to country music, but not a lot of pasture. You don't have to go far. There are a lot of beautiful horse ranches outside of Nashville. Then on the 29th and 30th, we have a lot of program. We get a lot of positive feedback is because we're a conference of one market, the TVA market. So like RE Plus, we can't compete with RE Plus, amazing conference with lots of different things going on, but you have to be really broad, right? Talk about broad trends. We're able to dive in. And because TVA is a major sponsor and partner, we get every staff person involved in renewables is at the conference. And usually they're hard to get a hold of. So have them there, have the ability to really connect with them is really valuable. And, they're going to go into the details of the first RFP RSC cluster, the origination process. They're changing their NEPA requirements and coming out with the new regs in September. They're going to do a deep dive in those at our conference. Everything that's kind of going on, there's several municipalities that have new programs for residential and distributed. We get those speakers coming to talk about that. So we're much more able to do a real, if you want to know what's happening with the TVA solar and storage market, everybody's there, so it's really exciting. The other big thing that we have going is our flexibility market. One of the other unique things other than our partnership with TVA is our partnership with the local power companies, electric unions, electric co-ops of the Valley. Because TVA lets them self-generate up to 5% of their load, they can really benefit financially from doing solar projects. It's only a couple years old program, but I get a ton of members partnering with LPCs on that market. We're having a lot of...
So LPC, local power company?
Local power company, right. So that's the electric unions, electric co-ops. They have long-term contracts with TVA and are locally, yes. I know that's not a term used in other markets.
And then also, too, a lot of people might even get mixed up, think that TVA is a utility. So how would you describe TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority?
Yeah, because they do a fabulous job of economic development, bringing manufacturing is. They do river control. So they have parks and access to the water. It is a broader mission. They're not just a pure power utility. They are the generator of, they do have coal plants and natural gas plants. They're one of the largest nuclear power fleets in the nation. They are a big generator and transmitter of power, but they also have this much broader mission. I know the states love their economic development mission, because a lot of times, whether utilities are interested in economic development kind of depends on the utility and their mood sometimes, but it is a statutory requirement in TVA. And a lot like the Blue Oval plant, which is a huge EV plant growing up in West Tennessee, that whole location was set up by TVA. All the infrastructure was built out and the place was set up. And then the state was able to partner with them to bring it. That's why, there's occasional talk about privatization of TVA. And most of us stakeholders involved say, no. We don't want some private utility with a narrow mission. Having this public power partnership is a great thing.
Well, maybe they should just let you and me have it.
Well, if they, then it would be in trusted hands, Sean.
Yeah.
So I'd be all about that.
So it's not a utility. They do other kinds of projects, and they generate electricity. Is it also like an independent system operator? Is it like a grid operator too, an ISO?
It is a grid operator. It's a federal agency. So they're not bound by like FERC and stuff. FERC is a sister agency.
Oh, okay.
So they're very unique.
FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I think is what that stands for.
Normally sets the rules for now. TVA has a policy of abiding by FERC rules, but they're just not forced to.
Oh,
It's
they
an
don't have
option.
to. Yep.
Because they're an independent agency. The board is appointed by the President of the United States, and they don't have to. And, they are bound by the TVA Act, this New Deal Act that outlines their goals. So, they're kind of utility plus is what I would say. So, I said they manage the river system. They do economic development. They generate power and transmit it to the local power companies that then distribute it to the local communities.
So they manage a river system?
Yes, the Tennessee Valley River System.
Okay, what are some of those rivers? We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show.
Well, they're all tributaries of the Tennessee River.
Okay.
So there's the Houston River. There's a ton of rivers that feed into the Tennessee Valley River.
Did you see Deliverance? Was that taking place down there? No.
I believe that was on the far east of the system, right in that North Carolina part of the system. But yes,
all right.
I do think there has been a number, it's really unique. There's
All-time
like three,
classic. Yeah.
There's three major
country.
parts of the valley. There's the eastern mountain region, then you have like the middle rolling area, and then you've got the Mississippi Plain and that. So it's three very unique different ecosystems and very distinct culture, really. So
great, good. And so I believe that goes up even towards North Carolina, right? Is it?
It goes into a couple counties of North Carolina.
Over that way.
Asheville's actually just outside of it.
Okay, all right. Yep. Yeah, I think I went from Asheville and I went running when I was teaching a class up that way through the mountains there. What are they called? The Blue Ridge? Is that what
Blue
that
Ridge
is?
Mountains, correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, a beautiful place.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So the TVA, it just does so many different things. We don't have any other analogies. There's no other thing like that.
Brownsville in the state of Washington, I understand, is a similar, I'm not super familiar with them, but I'm told they were a similar creation and an agency on a smaller scale, similar to TVA.
Okay.
But otherwise, very distinct. There are no shareholders. They work for the public good. Now, you can argue they forget that occasionally. A lot of their executives do come from the private industry, but they have that broader, beautiful mission of looking out for the people of the valley.
Okay, great. And so I know that you were having some meetings here too, and there's a relationship for different types of SEIAs. And so Solar Energy Industry Association is, along with SEPA, Solar or Smart Electric Power Association, they call it now, they put together RE+, solar energy trade shows. And there's different SEIAs in different places. And TenneSEIA, I think, has the best name because it sounds like Tennessee and it just fits perfectly.
Yep.
And so you're the executive director of TenneSEIA. And what is the relationship between all of these different SEIAs? I even remember one time talking to somebody at what's now called CALSA, which was formerly called CALSEIA. And they said, oh, no, we're not really related.
Yeah.
And so what is the relationship?
Yeah. We are separate organizations. We're usually 501c6s, which, like a Chamber of Commerce Business Association. Our membership are companies. We represent the membership. So there are 22 official SEIA affiliates, like TenneSEIA, Georgia SEIA, Kentucky SEIA.
I did something for MoSEIA last year.
MoSEIA, yeah, another great one. So there's 22. We just actually yesterday all got together and had a great meeting, talking with SEIA about, so we're separate organizations, but we're affiliated. So part of that affiliation is we do get a seat on the board. So, helping make sure. Right now, I'm the board representative along with PJ Wilson with Puerto Rico Solar and Storage Association, which is a SEIA association. Puerto Rico.
And so are you on a SEIA board?
I'm on the SEIA board.
Oh, okay. I better be nice to you, huh?
No, my term's coming to an end. I'm getting term limited out. I've been on for the last 4 years, and that's the maximum term. So I got one more board meeting in Q4, and then we'll be having our elections to replace me. And we have some really good people running, so I'm really excited that they're keeping that strong relationship between the affiliates. But yeah, we have our own monthly calls and coordinate. We don't compete with each other, right? Because we're all different markets. So we try to share best practices. We just succeeded. This is what I learned from my conference. This is, how I'm handling sponsorships. It's a great network. There's some communication with non-affiliates. For some reason, some, state associations might not want to be affiliates, but we all, we're stronger together. So we really work to do that together. And, generally there's more states. We usually get 1 or 2 new affiliates every year, and it's a great network. I don't know anybody that doesn't really enjoy being part of the SEIA affiliate network.
Great. Yeah, and so I am running a nonprofit called NorCal Solar, which is a 501c3, and that's the one that I hear most about. And you said that TenneSEIA is a 501c6. What's the difference?
So a C3 they're about public education and outreach, right? So a C4 is usually like the political arm, and then a C6 is a business association. So how I get paid and how we generate revenue is membership dues from companies. So Silicon Ranch, Avangrid, I have a ton of people, they pay monthly dues. It's like National SEIA, except these are companies who are focused on the Valley. And, so we have lobbyists that working in fact, we have fabulous lobbyists that work in Nashville. So our focus is the state legislature. SEIA is focused mainly on congressional, national politics. They do get involved in particular state critical issues, and they've been a great partner. When we need to bring in an expert that we don't have in our network, because of that affiliation, we've had a number of experts come in and help us just for free, because that affiliation, we're all working on that broader mission. But our focus is, National SEIA focused on what's happening with Congress and trying to do that. We're focused completely on what's happening in Nashville and Tennessee General Assembly, and to a lesser extent, the other states of the 7 states. So, we've passed legislation in the General Assembly for the last 5 years. And just trying to improve the state solar market, as does the other affiliates in their particular state market. So that's kind of the difference between National SEIA and the affiliates, is we're completely focused on a state or regional market.
Okay, and I guess the nonprofit that I'm running, we can't do lobbying. I guess that's the difference.
That is a bit of, we're actually limited, and you can't write off dues depending on your percentage of your lobbying, but we are allowed to do some lobbying, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I think that's like, if you're not doing lobbying, it's easier to write things off, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And part of it is just how you generate revenue. A lot of my affiliates, I don't myself, but have C3s, sometimes C4s, super PACs. Sometimes there's a bundle of these associations that you will all coordinate and work with as part of your mission.
Okay, and we are recording at RE+, and I'm going to release this podcast before your conference, so I might have to put you ahead of some other people. And so maybe you could talk about like when the conference is and any kind of special things going on, besides there's a great singer that's going to be there. And I could sing too. Do you want me to do some singing?
Well, maybe you could do that during the training,
I'll
John.
I'll sing about the
entertainment
NEC.
breaks. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So as we start the reception the evening of October 28th, then 29th, and we quit midway through the 30th. Although your training goes to the end of the day. And we're right downtown Nashville, right off Broadway, right over the honky tonks at the Renaissance Hotel. You can learn more about it and register if you're interested off our website, TenneSEIASolar.com. If you just go to the conference page, you'll see all the details for getting there. You'll see the registration. You'll see the sponsors. You'll see the agenda with all the speakers. So it's all there. We also use the Hough app, which we get a lot of praise for. A number of regions use that. Great way to interact with people, make appointments for meetings and that kind of stuff. One of the unique things I say is our partnership with TVA and the local power companies, the munis and the co-ops. Is, it's really rare to get so many of the utility players in the room with solar industry. So really, that's the two groups that are coming to the conference is the solar industry and utilities. We get state representatives and some nonprofit allies in there too, but that's the focus. And we do deep dives from, TenneSEIA does represent the full value chain. So we have manufacturers talking about what's happened in manufacturing. Dean Solon, his operations are based in Tennessee. Shoals Technologies, got Q-Cells in the Valley. We have a lot of, First Solar, a lot of manufacturing in the Tennessee Valley. That we got professionals, so we get distributed, local installers. We have the community scale. Not a lot of straight community solar, but we got a lot of community scale because of that generation flexibility program, feedback program. In fact, like 800 megawatts is under contract and close to 2 gigawatts available. So that's, the generation flexibility mid-scale market is one of the hottest parts of our market. And then the utility scale market. So we represent that full value chain. And we got panels in manufacturing panels, distributed generation panels. We got panels on the RFP for utility scale solar. We got storage panels. We do solar and storage. And pretty much anything going on in the valley with solar and storage, we highlight it. So encourage everybody to check it out, TenneSEIASolar.com, and just go to the conference page.
And once again, the dates?
October 28th, 29th, and the 30th.
October 28th through 30th, and it's a lot of fun. And you could go down there, you could get some NABCEP credits. You can have a tax-deductible country music Nashville vacation. Even if you don't care at all about TVA and you're from some other side of the country, it's a great excuse to come down there, hang out with some like-minded solar people, see what's going on in a different place, wear your cowboy boots, wear your cowboy hat.
I'm telling my boards they all have to wear cowboy boots and cowboy hats. We'll see if I can get them to do that, but that's a conversation we're totally pushing.
Yep. Yeah, and I actually really do have horses and a cowboy hat, and I go to rodeos and stuff like that with my daughter.
You got to wear the outfit, but don't bring the horses.
Darn. And that would be a nice long ride, though, just like getting in touch with my ancestors. So that sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see the conference and be there. It'll be right before Halloween, so that'll be maybe another theme that we could bring up. There'll probably be some pumpkins happening, things like that. And so it's been great talking to you. Any other things or where do I find you? I guess it's pretty easy probably to find TenneSEIA on the internet.
Yeah, TenneSEIASolar.com. And always happy to talk to new people, talk to new members. I have had a number that say, I'm not sure about the Tennessee market. And then I say, well, we're going to be on Broadway over the honky tonks, but I'll come to the conference. It's a growing market. I think it's an underappreciated market, huge demand growth, and we have great partnership with the utilities. And I think even though we have some turbulent times, I think I'm very bullish about the future.
So we're inside of this booth with double pane plastic doors by a podcast stage. Should we try to scream out a big loud yeehaw or something like that? Yeehaw! See if Nico notices and gives us the eye. All right. And so thanks for listening to this podcast with Gil Hough, the Executive Director of TenneSEIA. And just as a reminder, we are recording live from the Power Up Live Pro Studio presented by TerraHive. Thanks to RE Plus and Suncast Media for hosting us. And make sure to go to SolarSEAN, that's SolarSEAN.com, and get yourself the very golden ticket, which is called a NABCEP certification. And make sure to get that NABCEP certification credits over at the TenneSEIA conference. Yeah!
Thanks, Sean.
All right. Thanks a lot, Gil. Hey, this is Sean. I hope you enjoyed that podcast that we were recording over at RE Plus. And I just wanted to mention a little bit about this song that you've been hearing in the background a little bit and that you can hear in the background right now. It is a song that is recorded by a famous folk singer, Pete Seger, no relation to Bob Seger. He was a guy that used to hang out during the Great Depression with Woody Guthrie, the guy that wrote This Land Is Your Land. And he's also famous for a couple of other songs, one of them being called the TVA song. And he's popular for it. I always thought that he was the one that wrote the song, but actually it was written by somebody named George Rucker, who was a songwriter, but he wasn't a singer. In fact, George Rucker, who wrote the song, he was good with words, but Pete Seger was the guy that popularized this song. So some other things about Pete Seger is, after the Great Depression, he got caught up in the Red Scare. He was blacklisted. They took him to testify in Congress. He wouldn't plead the fifth, but he pleaded the first for free speech, and he actually went to jail. Just thought that was kind of interesting. So let's hear this song that we're talking about, the TVA song, and make sure to listen to these lyrics.
It was down in the valley that's called Tennessee. Uncle Sam started something in the year 33. We dreamed a great dream then that's now here to stay. Saw democracy's future when we built TVA. Now rivers that once ran unchecked to the sea use the force that was wasted for electricity. And rains that washed topsoil away in the night help turn the great turbines, turning dark into light. Where once private power said it couldn't be done, you can see farm lights twinkling, you can hear high lines hum. Fertilizer and science are reclaiming the soil, and the REA co-ops help lighten the toil. From the vision of Norris, who was true to his dream, came a blueprint for freedom and democracy's team. The farmer and worker helped to build a new day that was built for the people of the great USA.